It's season 2 of Ag and Culture, and of course we are talking culture. Tune in for great guests and conversation, breaking down all things agriculture. Watch us on our YouTube channel, MS Footprint Farms, and on Facebook at Footprint Farms, every Tuesday, 9 a.m. Central, 10 a.m. Eastern, and 7 a.m. on the West. Proudly sponsored by Heifer USA.
Good morning, and welcome to our new show, Ag Plus Culture. I'm your host, Dr. Cindy Ayers Elliott. Our show, Ag Plus Culture, will explore all things agriculture, specifically how to affect communities, farmers, and ranchers of color. We will have local and national experts from around the country to discuss everything about agriculture, from how to plant a garden in your backyard to understanding your rights to air property. We also want to talk about culture, health, food, education, music, and politics. Our goal is to make this a very interactive show. So we want you, your questions, your comments. Instagram at Footprint Farms, Facebook, Footprint Farms, website, footprintfarmsms.com. Or you can reach us at 601-910-5534. And make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Footprint Farm MS. Okay, let's get it on. Our guest of season 2 is the one and only Eloris Speight. Good morning, Eloris.
Good morning, Cindy. I'm delighted to be here.
I'm so happy you're here. There's so much going on. I've been seeing your name and what you've been doing throughout this country on everything I pick up and read. So it's especially nice to have you here with us.
Well, thank you. So I want to remind everyone, and so as the Executive Director of the Socially Disadvantaged Farmers and Ranchers Policy Research Center, which is located at Alcorn State University. Now, we refer to it as the Policy Center, as you know. And the Policy Center was authorized in the 2014 Farm Bill to advance the success of socially disadvantaged farmers and to ensure that there was data-rich information available for both Congress and USDA to make policy decisions.
Now, you said that magic word that we love, data. So that means we're going to actually have data that we can put forth to back up these things that we know are happening and to bring it to the attention.
Absolutely. So and in fact, to date, we have conducted 15 research studies which were funded by the Policy Center, and we have 4 active research studies underway now looking at access to capital.
So that means we're going throughout the country bringing in experts to research these things for us so we can actually have to go to Congress or to be out for us to know exactly too what's going on.
Absolutely, so that we know the magnitude. So if there are problems or issues that are brought up, we conduct these research studies to determine just how broad or wide an impact a given issue or problem is.
So this thing we're talking about, though, is in agriculture, but it's real life. Everything happens in agriculture as it relates to farmers. But for me, as a black farmer, that's going to impact even more how we grow and how we can expand our businesses.
Absolutely. And so right now we have 6 priority areas that we are conducting research in. One is the review and analysis of the impact that the agricultural policy is having on socially disadvantaged farmers. 2 is either those things that support or hinder participation in USDA programs, the access to and use of resources. We started with access to technology. We have expanded that to include all resources, including capital. All right, 4 is youth in agriculture. 5, urban agriculture, challenges in urban agriculture. And then the 6 is analysis of land lost by black farmers and the decline in the number of black farmers.
So all these are so major topics. Of course, I get excited about all of these, but especially with urban farmers, because this is something that's new for us that's coming aboard, to be able to be inside cities and still be able to farm and to grow food for yourself, as well as to make a good living. But the other part you said, land loss. I know this is a big part that affects so many of us throughout this country with air property. Okay, so this is great info. And now we can even go and find more on the website?
You absolutely. So if you go to Alcorn State University, all of the research studies are accessible through our website. Information then in terms of what we're doing at the Policy Center can be accessed on our website. And we also have a research analyst and a policy analyst that certainly can be reached out, and their contact information is on the website as well as my contact information.
And this is so great, but we also have all the data coming in from around the country. So we're participating and working with all of our 1890s as well as CBOs.
Yes, I'm happy to report that we are now working with 100% of the 1890 universities. So the 18 other 1890 universities in addition to Alcorn, as well as we've just started working with Hispanic serving, institutions as well. And we are working with over 70 community-based organizations that represent minority farmers.
And this is all over the country. So we're pulling in the best of the best that's been working on the ground. So now their voice can be heard, as well as giving this data so we can actually put it in a compress so we'll know everything that's going on.
Well, absolutely. So the objective is when we go to Congress, not to be able to in addition to anecdotal stories, so I'm not going to take away the value of anecdotal stories, but in addition to those stories, to be able to have data to back up what we're saying. So when they ask the question, how big a problem is this, we can give them magnitude. And you mentioned heirs property. So that is one of the items. The last Farm Bill, there was recognition that it was a problem, but not necessarily the magnitude. So we have had several research studies, the Federation of Southern Cooperatives, the University of, or Auburn University, and Lichen all conducted research studies for the Policy Center related to heirs property.
Okay, and let's break this heirs property down. So we're talking heir property, you hear it all the time, but let's give a good definition or easy definition that people understand what we're talking about when we say heirs property.
So the most simplest definition it is for heirs property is property that was attained then as an heir. Then, so not through title, but because you are an heir to the original property owner, and so therefore you have an interest, in that property.
So if my grandparents had property, and my grandparents now are deceased, and now their children, would be my mom or dad or the rest of my uncles, they now inherit that property because they're heirs to that property?
They inherited if the deed was not changed or updated, or it was not specified in the will. So the property goes to the living heirs. And so as an heir, then as one of those relatives, yes, you would have an interest in that property.
So then it goes on and on from that. So if we had something back in the 1800s, and so now we're in 2020 to 2022, almost 23, then that means that we could have 5 or 6, 7 generations that could be heirs to property.
Exactly.
But there's a system in how you go about to understand where you are in that ranking for heir property.
Well, we can have a whole session just on heirs property.
And we will have that too.
But what I will say is that there's more and more information that is available, including training. So we at the Policy Center just last week received a grant funding from USDA Farm Service Agency, so FSA. And so we will then be working with the minority serving institutions then to provide training on heirs property there. We're working with the Mississippi, the Southern Rural Development Center located at Mississippi State University, and a host of other individuals across the country that are focused on heirs property. And we have developed a curriculum. 3-part curriculum. Includes an overview of heirs property, prevention, so ways to prevent heirs property in the future, and resolution. So if you are an heir, and like you said, there's no clear title to the property, what are some things, i.e., the family can set up a trust, and then so the property is titled in the name of the trust, and you can do the same thing then that someone that has a deed to the property then is one example.
Well, without a doubt, we're going to have to come back and we're going to have nothing but heir property to talk about truly what it is. And these are some of the other series we want to have to bring correct information so that we'll know what we're doing and how we need to do it. But there's some of the other things I know we need to talk about today because there's so much, again, happening. So I'm going to give it to you. You tell us what's going on. And, of course, I'm going to be a good steward and listen and have some great questions for you.
Oh, absolutely. So one of the things that I would like to talk about that we're working on is the Inflation Reduction Act of 2016.
Big words, Eloris.
2022.
2016. Big words. Tell me about that. What is that?
So the Inflation Reduction Act was signed by President Biden on August 16, 2022. And so there are a number of relevant issues in there that I want to touch on that affects especially Black farmers. So 3 items, in this act, and one was it repealed 1005 of the American Relief Plan.
Okay, now that one, it repealed it, so this means it's now taken away, it's no longer there.
It no longer exists, and so why that's relevant, so 1005 of the American Relief Plan was the debt relief then, or was to provide debt relief for farmers of colors. But as you are aware, and many others are aware, that was held up in the courts. There were a number of white organizations or farmers that alleged that it was discriminatory, and so it was halted by an injunction. So I think it had gotten up to close to 20 different groups that had filed lawsuits.
Filing against because Black farmers are finally going to get some relief. So, so what happened with that when you repealed it means that lawsuits goes away too. It's no longer there.
Exactly, but we think that's a good thing.
Yes.
Because by the repealing of the 1005, then as you mentioned, that means the lawsuits go away as well. The money, or at least a good portion of the money, that $4 billion that was for debt relief for farmers of color, has been transferred over to 1006. And there are 2 relevant clauses, and I'm going to talk about those in a minute. But what I would like to say about the repeal as well, we think that's a good thing, especially for Black farmers. Because had it not been repealed and 1005 had been implemented, there are only 8% of Black farmers that would have received any debt relief, because there's only 8% of total Black farmers that have FSA loans. Correct.
Which is one of the problems. We couldn't get loans. So for this to have helped us, we had to have a loan.
Exactly.
So it's going to help a very limited number of Black farmers. But the recording was going to go high to everybody else.
Exactly. But 1006, now, so the 2 additional provisions in the Inflation Reduction Act. So one is there's...
Hold that. We're going to go to a commercial break.
Heifer USA is a nonprofit that supports small-scale, sustainable livestock businesses, and we are currently seeking individuals interested in pastured pork production in the state of Mississippi. Applicants should have access to at least 35 acres of land and be willing to participate in in-depth training, both online and in person at Heifer Ranch in Perryville, Arkansas. To learn about our operation, check out the Pastured Pigs playlist on the Heifer USA YouTube channel, or contact Farmer Engagement Specialist Ruth Canada at 501-391-5511.
Footprint Farms is a beautiful 68-acre vegetable and cattle farm located in Jackson, Mississippi, and is Mississippi's largest urban farm. The mission of Footprint Farms is to provide the community access to healthy food choices, introduce our youth to agriculture, and provide training and technical assistance to small farmers and ranchers. The farm is open to the public every Friday from 2:30 to 5:30 p.m. to purchase fresh produce or visit us at the Mississippi Farmers Market located near the fairgrounds. We accept all forms of payment, including EBT and SNAP benefits. Looking for a beautiful venue for your next wedding, family reunion, or dinner? Footprint Farms offers a 3,000 square foot facility on 5 beautiful acres, perfect for your next event. For more information, visit our website at footprintfarms.com, Facebook and Instagram at Footprint Farms, or call us at 601-910-5534. Footprint Farms, farm fresh, city sweet.
Thank you for listening to us, and thank our sponsors, Heifer International, for giving us this opportunity to bring you information, just like we're doing right now. Because again, we're with Eloris Speight, who has already started talking about how this farm bill affects black farmers. And we were just talking about the repeal of 1005. Now we're at 1006. But what you told me was so drastic that even if this had passed, only 8% of black farmers would have benefited from this $4 billion, which means we would have got little or nothing, and everybody else still at the top would have gotten everything.
Correct. So the Inflation Reduction Act of 2022 is what we're talking about. Two additional revisions or provisions that were put in the Inflation Reduction Act. One is $2.1 billion was provided to USDA for farmers then that can provide evidence of discrimination then. And so regardless of race or ethnicity, if you can provide evidence that you were discriminated against by USDA, there is relief or payment as a result of the $2.1 billion that is set aside for that. The second point is that there's $3.1 billion for distressed borrowers. Now, the Act does not define distressed borrowers, but it is distressed borrowers of that have FSA, loans or FSA backed loans there. So I want to emphasize that. But there's $3.1 billion for that. Now, the Justice for Black Farmers Act used the definition of distressed borrowers. There, they had a definition, and so we were recommending that USDA, the Policy Center was recommending that USDA use that definition. However, there should be some guidance coming out from USDA shortly, because what was in the Act was that the $3.1 billion related for distressed borrowers was to be done expeditiously.
All right, now let me just back up. Now we're talking billions of dollars here. Mm-hmm. $2.1 billion was to farmers in general, to any farmer that felt like they've been have evidence been discriminated against.
They
correct?
Can provide evidence that they were discriminated against. That's correct.
Okay, so now the $3.1 billion is going to distressed farmers that did have loans or do have loans with FSA?
FSA loans, correct.
So that means they had to receive them in order to?
They had to have a loan on or prior to January 1 of 2021. And exactly. So they had to have an FSA loan, yes. So the 8% of black farmers that I mentioned would be included, potentially included in that group.
But so will so many others if they had loans, or just going to be the 8%.
Well, that's it's still 8% of black.
Okay, because these are the loans that they actually received.
Exactly.
Well, Lois, what about all the farmers who applied that didn't get loans, or got their application thrown in the garbage, or got everything so late it was too late to do anything and they said no? What about those farmers?
So they're potentially would receive funding under the 2.1 billion then related to if they can provide evidence of discriminatory practices. Absolutely.
So that part,
Yes.
then some black farmers and farmers of color could potentially
Yes.
qualify for that.
Absolutely.
And that's
yes.
2.1 billion.
That's the $2.1 billion that's available.
So give
Yes.
me an example of that. So if I went into FSA and
Mm-hmm.
I was not just even turned down, well, if I was turned down,
Mm-hmm.
then am I eligible to then look at going back to say felt like if I was discriminated against for whatever reason?
Potentially. Then, if in fact you ended up going to another, let's say, institution,
Okay.
you had to get a commercial loan with a higher interest. So theoretically, at least, then you should be able to say, the FSA loans are sometimes called the lender of last resort, but here you were turned down by
Last
FSA,
resort.
but you received funding elsewhere. So I'm not going to say that it's 100% guaranteed, but that's an example of where you might be able to provide evidence that, I was turned down for this, and here's my letter saying that I was turned down, but I received funding here. So I'm alleging, and here's the proof that I was discriminated against.
Okay, to do
Right,
that.
yes.
So
Yes.
that's a great piece. But this sounds so much interesting. Tell me what else we got as it relates to this new bill that was passed in August, a couple months ago of this year.
Yes. So a little bit over a month ago. Time flies, but yes. So the only other thing I will mention then, because there are a number of other things, but there was $20 billion that is for climate smart agricultural practices. So there are opportunities then to encourage farmers then to invest and use climate smart agricultural practices there. And so there are a number of requests for funding that is available, and I would imagine that you're going to see even more there. So I would say for farmers to stay tuned for additional information related to climate smart practices.
Right. Which means we're going to have another show on climate smart.
Okay.
Because it's so important for us as black farmers and as farmers in general to understand how this impacts our everyday lives.
Yes, absolutely.
And the more
Yes.
we know, the more we're able to help build our businesses and to do this. Usually, farmers, especially black farmers, have no idea what a farm bill does or why
Yes.
it's even there because
Yes.
we never had an opportunity to utilize it.
Well, and one of the things that I will say to that point, Cindy, is so there are podcasts that will be available through the Policy Center. And one of them relates specifically to what is the Farm Bill.
Okay.
Yes, so there will be a series under Policy Center Live then as well. So there will be a number of vehicles then for farmers to keep
up what's
informed.
going on.
Absolutely.
And Eloris, and if some of our farmers don't have internet like some of us do, but a lot of our areas still don't have good internet. So if one calls and said, I need to see this, read this, could you provide that as well in paper form?
Absolutely. So we have now started producing a quarterly newsletter.
Okay.
And so that can farmers can either get on our mailing list and receive a hard copy or provide their email and receive a downloaded, copy.
And there's no cost to any farmer
There's
or to
no
any
cost.
person who might want to become a farmer
There
to
is
get
no
more
cost.
information.
There is no cost, exactly.
This is good.
Yes, they would just go to our website, exactly.
You talked about these great people at the Policy Center that help you move along, but you really utilize all of our 1890s and the brain power around the country to help bring in more. Because it sounds like a lot of work and what you got right here.
Yes, so the Policy Center actually only has 4 staff, so 3 in addition to myself. We have Dr. Kara Woods, who is our research analyst and supervises all of the research that is done by the Policy Center. We have April Love, who is an attorney and handles or oversees our policy development And then we have Rosalind Turner, who is our program coordinator and coordinates the various programs for the Policy Center. So, but the majority of the work, to your point, gets done via contracts or subawards with the other 1890 universities and other land grant, universities, as well as through the CBOs, the community-based organizations. Absolutely.
Well,
Yes.
This is so great. So you have an army behind you, but you as a general have to be able to help us to direct which way we need to go.
Absolutely.
So
yes.
this is one of the biggest roles that, of course, that anyone can have. And this Policy Center, again, it's only been around for 6 years.
Exactly. But so two things I want, and I mentioned that we support, if you will, or advocate for all socially disadvantaged. So I want to say a couple things, about that. One, you've heard me mention when we were talking about the Inflation Reduction Act, Black farmers. And so I just want to talk for a minute on why the focus on Black farmers.
Please.
So Black farmers is the only group declining in numbers.
Say it again.
Okay, Black farmers is the only group declining in numbers.
Of all the farmers in America.
Absolutely. All other groups are increasing in numbers.
And we're the endangered species.
Absolutely. So in 1920, there were nearly 1 million Black farmers in the United States. Today, there are less than 40,000, which is 1.49% of the 2.8 million farmers and ranchers in the U.S.
1.49%.
That's
less
right.
than 2%.
Exactly. And so the concern is that if there's not some intervention, Black farmers will become extinct. And so that's why there is a specific push for interventions for Black farmers.
So, Eloris, and what you're telling me and what numbers show, and we have the history to pull back to look at this, is that we need to get more Black people into farming.
Yes.
And you
yes.
also just showed us how much money is available for farming in general.
Yes. I would encourage, right, the increase in Black farmers, but also we've got to stop the decline, even in that, less than 2% that is less, because again, they're continually declined. And so the first is, as you will, stop the bleeding. So we need to stop the decline. And then to your point, encourage others to, start farming, if you will.
To look at agriculture.
And our youth. Because the other thing is Black farmers then is also, when you look at the average age of farmers, the Black farmers, it is 60 versus, 56, 57 for, some other groups then.
Well, I'm a farmer, but I'm not 60, so we don't want to go there.
Right. Of course
and do
not.
that.
That's
We
right.
don't want to go there. But what you're saying is that we need to get more young people, more younger
Yes.
Black people especially,
Yes.
and
Yes.
looking at agriculture as a way, as a career, as
Yes.
well as how they can do day to day to make a difference. Now, the part about this that I want to just say as being a Black farmer is that Black farmer does not mean you don't make money, first of all.
Absolutely
being
not.
a Black farmer, there's a lot of opportunities to make money in your crafts and what you do. But you got to have access
Yes.
to information as well as to dollars, because if you have the information, then it pretty much gives you a map of where the dollars are and what you can do.
Absolutely. And Cindy, it actually reminds me, one of the other research studies that we're doing, which has been funded by Walmart Corporation.
Okay.
Exactly. They have a Center for Racial Equity, and they have provided funding to the Policy Center to specifically look at access to capital by Black farmers then. If only 8% of Black farmers have FSA loans, how are the other 92% funding their operations?
Yes.
And so we are doing a research study, then looking at that, And the Policy Center is leading it. But what we've also, we have subawards with 7 other 1890 universities, and we identified the 8 states with the largest number of black farmers. So we're talking Mississippi, Texas, Alabama, Georgia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Florida, and Louisiana then. And so we have partnered, with the 1890s in those states then to conduct this research study.
Well, listen, we want to hold that for a minute because we want to make sure that we get all this in and see again how it impacts us. We're going to go to break, and we'll thank all of our sponsors, especially Heifer International, for sponsoring ag and culture. So we'll be right back with Dr. Eloris Speight.
Heifer USA is a nonprofit that supports small-scale, sustainable livestock businesses, and we are currently seeking individuals interested in pastured pork production in the state of Mississippi. Applicants should have access to at least 35 acres of land and be willing to participate in in-depth training, both online and in person at Heifer Ranch in Perryville, Arkansas. To learn about our operation, check out the Pastured Pigs playlist on the Heifer USA YouTube channel, or contact Farmer Engagement Specialist Ruth Canada at 501-391-5511.
Footprint Farms is a beautiful 68-acre vegetable and cattle farm located in Jackson, Mississippi, and is Mississippi's largest urban farm. The mission of Footprint Farms is to provide the community access to healthy food choices, introduce our youth to agriculture, and provide training and technical assistance to small farmers and ranchers. The farm is open to the public every Friday from 2:30 to 5:30 p.m. to purchase fresh produce or visit us at the Mississippi Farmers Market located near the fairgrounds. We accept all forms of payment, including EBT and SNAP benefits. Looking for a beautiful venue for your next wedding, family reunion, or dinner? Footprint Farms offers a 3,000 square foot facility on 5 beautiful acres, perfect for your next event. For more information, visit our website at footprintfarms.com, Facebook and Instagram at Footprint Farms, or call us at 601-910-5534. Footprint Farms, farm fresh, city sweet.
Thank you for staying with us, because this information that we're giving you today is so important to what our future will be. And having, again, Eloris Speight to be here with us, live and in the studio, to tell us some other directions we need to go, is some important messages we need to get out. So don't let me stop you. Tell us more.
So one of the things I want to talk about is words matter. And so let's talk about the use of the term socially disadvantaged farmers and ranchers.
Let's do that.
Okay. So that term, and I believe it was originally used by Small Business Administration, and then it was written into the Farm Bill as well. And the primary difference between, or at least originally, between use of the term minority farmers and socially disadvantaged farmers was that white females were not included in the original definition. It was race-based then. So you had to be black, Hispanic, Asian Pacific Islander, or Hispanic. Did I say Hispanic?
Anything other than white.
Native American.
And Native
exactly. Yes, you had to be non-white, in order to participate or be defined as socially disadvantaged. Mm-hmm. Now, subsequent farm bills they expanded and included white females. Mm-hmm. And the reason that that's relevant, mm-hmm. We had Jackson State University, their policy analysis group, do an analysis for us looking at the service that was provided to socially disadvantaged farmers between 2014 and 2017. And so what they found was that if you looked at it in total, services increased to socially disadvantaged farmers. Then when you broke it down further into each individual category, the group that received the most services
White women.
White females, correct. The group that received the least amount of services.
Don't tell me. Black
farmers, correct, exactly. And so, but the other thing in addition, and I started this by saying words matter. So there are a number of farmers then that are classified as socially disadvantaged that take exception or even offended by the use of the term socially disadvantaged. They said, so why are you describing us as socially disadvantaged through no actions of our own? Said, because I've been discriminated against, that doesn't make me socially disadvantaged.
That make me discriminated against.
Exactly. And so we have recommended both to USDA and to Congress discontinue the use of the term. Now, one of the things that I will say, USDA has started using another term. So in a lot of communication, you now see underserved.
Not social disadvantaged, just underserved.
You see underserved, right, producers. All right, but we also have concerns with the use of the term underserved. Underserved represents closely 80% of the population.
Which means everybody.
And it is, other than a few select white males, right? And so you're talking 80% of the population. So our concern is that is not targeted then services or recruit. And once again, the fear is Black farmers will be left out there.
As the pattern has been for a couple hundred years.
Yes, exactly.
So what do we do? What do we do different, or what are we doing from the Policy Center to bring this to knowledge?
So we're recommending that, like you said, that the term that you referred to was what you already referred to, minority farmers, and in their individual categories. So a Black or African American farmer, a Native American or American Indian, Hispanic or Latino, Asian Pacific Islander. So because these groups do not have shared histories.
Right.
Each one of us has a different cultural history. Blacks have a history of slavery or free labor.
For hundreds of years.
Absolutely. American Indians had prime land, stolen from them, if you
All
will.
their lives, yes.
Hispanic or Latino might have a history of migration or migrant farm workers there. So each group has a different culture. And so our recommendation is that if you're going to come up with solutions, stop trying to use one solution to fit all, right? And in fact, that then leaves you open to claims of discrimination. Absolutely. So because what ended up being then 1005 in the American Relief Act started as justice for Black farmers. So they used the history of what happened to Black farmers. But by the time it got to Congress, it was changed to include all farmers of color, and left it vulnerable to discrimination, complaints. So we're saying, okay, stop it. If there is one group that you're focus on that group, and then come up with the solutions for that group.
Which brings us back to your formula you started with equitable. And how do we get there?
Exactly.
And you said this, is that the weight for 100 of years has been on our shoulders and on our necks. But yet still, when they look at benefiting, we get to do and have the burden of everything we've had to be where we are by not having access.
Yes.
But as soon as they put money out there, then it's for everybody. Everybody becomes equal then.
Yes,
But you just said to us, we're declining. We are declining over from million of farmers to less than 40,000. So that shows that everything they've been doing has been put in place to make sure that we do become extinct.
Well, and then there's the perception. Like in 1005, the perception was oh, here goes another program for blacks here. When, as I mentioned, black farmers would have, it was only 8% of black farmers that would have received anything. So they were such a small percentage of who would have benefited total. In fact, I believe that it was 47% of those that would have received were Native Americans or American Indians. 27% was your Hispanic, yes. And so it was this misperception, if you will, that blacks, once again with their hands out, unfortunately. So we've got to get over that and fix the wrongs, if you will.
So it's exactly that. It's the wrongs, and this has been embedded into these policies since the beginning, and people still wanted to stay. Is it because they don't understand the difference, or it's not brought to their attention, or just for them being who they are?
I don't know. I can't answer that, Cindy. One thing, I try to educate. That's all I can say. I don't know. If you look at this country, I'm not sure what's going on, but one of the things that I do as I go around the country is to educate. As I mentioned, the Policy Center was set up for data-rich information to be available, and I make sure that we share. So when I talk, I try to make sure that I use the research data that we have found out. Yes.
So here's this is truly the story and not his story.
Yes, exactly.
What's going on with us? So Eloris, what can we do? I mean, we're out here. We're black. We're farmers, and of course, we are definitely black, and we are looking at again trying to expand. But yet, if we still have these acts that's in place that's still keeping the doors closed to us.
Yes.
The only thing we can do is to look for policies and to have a voice.
Well, here's what I can say, what each individual could do. And people ask me this a lot. And in fact, they'll ask sometimes, are you going to march? There's this march. And my response is, I march myself to the polls. And so that's what I encourage everyone. So have a voice. Let your pen be your voice, if you will. If your congressional representatives are not then doing what you need them to do, go to the polls then. And so I'm not telling anybody who to vote for, but look at who is advocating for your best interest and go to, but not voting or not going to the polls
hurts.
Then you're not using your voice then.
There's no voice. Right. So if you don't use your voice, stop complaining. And the way you can find out about, you can look around and see the people we're electing, are they serving us as a whole?
Yes.
And you can go, if you want to see their voting records, it's easy to pull up to see who voted for what. In fact, who voted against this action that we just got passed out. Who was there to support this that's now out and funding is happening with?
Yes.
Who voted against it?
Well, and I'll tell you, Cindy, so a number of individuals, especially lately, have either emailed me or called me or whatever and said, could you tell Congressman Thompson this? Or can you tell Congressman Thompson this? So my response is, why don't you?
You tell.
Exactly, because now don't get me wrong, Congressman Benny Thompson has been very supportive of the Policy Center, and I think that's probably why folks do it, and Alcorn State University has been very supportive of both. But what I encourage individuals is then to reach out themselves then to their congressional representatives, including Congressman Thompson there. Always willing to listen there. And make sure that they understand where you're coming from.
So again, it goes back to voice.
Yes.
Congressman Thompson is doing a great job, then tell them so.
Yes.
That this is what you're doing, continue.
Yes.
But the other ones that's in our state as well, or in any state that's listening, it's up to you too to tell them what they're doing or what they're not doing, well or unwell.
Yes.
Because policy makes a difference. And if you're not at the table helping to write the policies or helping to interpret the policies, then we will continue what we've been doing for the last 100 years.
Yes. and make sure that you're informed.
Information.
To your point, exactly. And so including what's in the Farm Bill, what are those things that benefit you? So whether it's conversations with USDA, whether it's with the land grants, then ask the questions then. Make sure that you are articulating your needs, as a farmer, and then you follow up to say, okay, what did get in the Farm Bill? What benefits me? Because one of the things that I will say is, without going, in the interest of time, going into all of the recommendations, I will say that we have a list of Farm Bill recommendations that we have submitted to the Congressional Black Caucus, because we go through them, and we're planning to submit it to the House and Senate agricultural, committees. The categories are racial equity. I talked about already the use of terms. There are specific items related to justice for Black farmers, food insecurities, access to capital, and here including transparency by the farm credit system. Transparency and accountability is big then. So if you're doing the right things then and providing services to all, there should be no concerns with reporting that data.
Let's see the data.
Exactly.
Something they hadn't been reporting.
Show me, exactly.
Show me the data?
Yes.
So, Eloris, I know we're talking about this as a Farm Bill, but what you just told us is about local as well. You need to start looking locally at what impacts and affects you. And you need to start speaking out to things that you know are happening and they're wrong. And a lot of times it's because
your voice,
use your voice. Use your voice. And when you use your voice and speak your voice, you speak to truth. But you got to know your facts.
Yes. Yes. So be informed, educated, yes, and then use your voice.
Well, we're going to leave on this note about using your voice. And this is one thing that has happened today with Eloris Speight, not only using her voice, but speaking for a lot of us that can't speak for ourselves by the research and information.
It's season 2 of Ag and Culture, and of course we are talking culture. Tune in for great guests and conversation, breaking down all things agriculture. Watch us on our YouTube channel, MS Footprint Farms, and on Facebook at Footprint Farms, every Tuesday, 9 a.m. Central, 10 a.m. Eastern, and 7 a.m. on the West. Proudly sponsored by Heifer USA.
Heifer USA is a nonprofit that supports small-scale, sustainable livestock businesses, and we are currently seeking individuals interested in pastured pork production in the state of Mississippi. Applicants should have access to at least 35 acres of land and be willing to participate in in-depth training, both online and in person at Heifer Ranch in Perryville, Arkansas. To learn about our operation, check out the Pastured Pigs playlist on the Heifer USA YouTube channel, or contact Farmer Engagement Specialist Ruth Canada at 501-391-5511.
Footprint Farms is a beautiful 68-acre vegetable and cattle farm located in Jackson, Mississippi, and is Mississippi's largest urban farm. The mission of Footprint Farms is to provide the community access to healthy food choices, introduce our youth to agriculture, and provide training and technical assistance to small farmers and ranchers. The farm is open to the public every Friday from 2:30 to 5:30 p.m. to purchase fresh produce or visit us at the Mississippi Farmers Market located near the fairgrounds. We accept all forms of payment, including EBT and SNAP benefits. Looking for a beautiful venue for your next wedding, family reunion, or dinner? Footprint Farms offers a 3,000 square foot facility on 5 beautiful acres, perfect for your next event. For more information, visit our website at footprintfarms.com, Facebook and Instagram at Footprint Farms, or call us at 601-910-5534. Footprint Farms, farm fresh, city sweet.
When you mention agriculture, most people think of farming. That's planting, growing, harvesting, and selling crops grown in a field, laboring in those fields behind a mule and a plow from dusk to dawn every day. This vision is a big misconception and could not be further from the truth. According to the United States Department of Agriculture, USDA, the agricultural industry and related industries provide 11% of jobs in America. In 2017, it was reported that 21.6 million Americans were employed in the agricultural industry. Women and minorities are underrepresented in those numbers, and we encourage you to consider agriculture as a career. While farming may be the cornerstone of agriculture, the overall world of agriculture is highly innovative and is so much more than just farming. A new generation of agricultural professionals prepare to take on the science, technology, and management that exist in the world of agriculture. Jobs in agriculture are segmented into 7 basic categories, which include plant science, natural resources, food science, ag business, ag mechanics, and technology. In those categories, you can find individuals working as landscape designers, publicists, foresters, plant doctors, journalists, accountants, veterinarians, farmers, ranchers, lawyers, engineers, pet groomers, loggers, agronomists, zoologists, wind turbine technicians, researchers, policy analysts, food safety, drone pilots, robotics, and the list goes on and on and on. Let us take a moment to hear from a few of those professionals who work in ag.
I am Dr. Cindy Ayers Elliott, CEO of Footprint Farms, a 68-acre urban farm and ranch here in the city of Jackson. I hold a degree in Business Administration and Finance and a degree in Economic Development from the University of Massachusetts Amherst, and a PhD from the I Love Jackson State University in Urban Management and Higher Education. I've worked 26 years on Wall Street, traveling the world, and today I'm a full-time farmer, growing a varieties of specialty crops and raising livestock. I am a farmer.
Hi, my name is Bill Evans, and I'm the Director of Development and Chief Horticulturist at Biosoil Enhancers in Hattiesburg, Mississippi. I worked in vegetable crops for almost 30 years now, running university research farms in Ohio and Mississippi and doing applied soil and crop research. At Biosoil Enhancers, I write grant proposals for field research projects. I also conduct research and farm demonstrations on how bacteria and fungi can help plants get more nutrients from the soil and help conserve natural resources on farms.
Hello, I'm Tanya Gray Jenkins. I'm the publicist and social media director for Footprint Farms. I hold a Bachelor of Science degree in computer science from Jackson State University. As a publicist, I generate publicity through the use of techniques in advertising, marketing, and public relations. My primary duty is brand development through social media. As the social media director, I manage the company's online community by reading customers' comments, answering questions, and actively engaging the audience.
Hi, my name is Dr. David K. Powell. I attended Jackson State University for 2.5 years as an undergraduate, majoring in biology before transferring to Tuskegee University, where I was accepted into the veterinary medical program, becoming a second-generation veterinarian to graduate from Tuskegee's program. I have also served in the military as an Army veterinary preventive medical officer and as a supervisory public health veterinarian with FSIS USDA.
My name is Dr. Kara Woods, and I serve as the research analyst at the Socially Disadvantaged Farmers and Ranchers Policy Research Center that's housed at Alcorn State University. I have a PhD from Tuskegee in Public Policy and Development. I manage all the research that's funded at the Policy Center to make sure that farmers get what they need in the Farm Bill.
Hi, I'm Captain John Martin with the Jackson Fire Department, and I do social media marketing. Social media is an essential component of farming because social media closes the gap between farmers and consumers. Social media marketing helps bring awareness and visibility to surrounding communities and abroad. Your average produce will have traveled at least 1,500 miles before entering your local grocery store. Social media marketing allows consumers to be informed and access better quality food in their local vicinity. Wow. It's so amazing seeing people connect and interact with local farmers via social media.
As you can see, agriculture offers endless career possibilities with endless opportunities for exciting, fulfilling, and profitable careers.